Hi y'all, welcome to Autumn Reads a Tome. You'll have to excuse my voice for this video. I've had a really nasty case of the flu, which I think transitioned into a cold at some point. I don't really know. It's just my symptoms keep changing, but I've been sick since before Christmas. But today I wanted to sit down and film a quick video about the most popular abandoned books according to a list on Goodreads. I saw Emily, what's her name? Books with Emily Fox posted a video about this a few months ago, and I just liked the idea and I wanted to sit and talk about these books for myself and give my own takes on it. I think it's kind of fun. Almost like a tag to talk about these books, whether you have completed them or abandoned them and why. And I did notice that her list was a little bit different from mine. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the list that I found. And then if I still have time after I've finished this list, there are some that are the same. I will go ahead and add in the ones that are missing that she covered just for fun. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So the first one that I see is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. So this is a book that I'm very intimidated by because it has very high praises from people that I trust their opinions. Oh boy. Like I get to one book and he wakes up, of course. I'm back. I'm going to do something a little bit risky, which is to try to film while I'm with my son. He's currently down here breastfeeding. Hopefully he doesn't try to pop into the frame out of curiosity. I don't usually like to film around him because I want to devote my attention to him and because he's too curious about electronics right now, and he just has to hold and mess with everything with a touchscreen. I am going to try to keep going. 100 Years of Solitude is a book that I would really like to get to someday, but I have not abandoned it because I've never tried to read it. Catch-22, same thing. I had a copy of it for years and never picked it up, and I gave it to my ex, or maybe it was his copy. I'm not sure. I had a copy for a while. I don't have one anymore, and I see it in bookstores and I've never made an attempt to purchase it, so maybe I'm not interested anymore. I like the concept, but never done it. So Neil Gaiman, American Gods. Neil Gaiman is a really hit or miss author for me, and I do have that book. I bought it for my husband. He started reading it, and then I think he abandoned it after like 50 pages because it just took a nosedive pretty quickly. He didn't finish it. I've never started it, but I have a feeling that if I did, it's just so long of a book that if by 50 pages you're bored, it's just so hard to commit to that. So I can see why people abandon it. I think a lot of people probably read the book because of the show that came out, but they never even finished the show from what I remember. Okay, so the next one is Dune. I've seen the movies. They're okay. Honestly, I've just never been interested in the book. I know that it obviously has a huge following, and I know that J.R.R. Tolkien was not a fan of Frank Herbert, which is kind of funny to think about, like, two, like, fantasy rivalries. I mean, I guess Dune is more sci-fi, but it's fantasy too. It's just not my thing. The next one is A Little Life, and I've heard such mixed things about this book. Some people like it just for the fact that it made them feel something and it made them cry. And then some people, like a Clockwork Reader, Hannah, here on YouTube, her opinion is like, why was this book even written? Like, it should never have even been written because of the representation of mental health. Oh, there's little feet. It's just like the worst take on mental health. I don't know that myself. It's just what I've heard other people say because I have not abandoned it. I have not read it. I do have a copy of it upstairs in my little bookshelf that I have, though. So the next one is A Gentleman in Moscow. I've never read anything by Immortals, but I would like to read this book. I like historical fiction. It's just a hit or miss for a lot of people. I think if I was to read this book, I would like it. But I have not abandoned it because I have never started it. The Book Thief. Okay, so I was really surprised to see that this book is regularly abandoned. I can understand that the pacing is a little bit slow and it's a pretty thick book for something that is more of like a YA. This book made me cry and I was so attached to the characters. I loved The Book Thief. So I can't relate. I finished it and I loved it. And I would read it again. The next one is the first book in Song of Ice and Fire, so it's like Game of Thrones. I've noticed that there are a couple of series on this list. I don't know if it's the series that people have abandoned or if it's literally the first book. So I'm going to take it as if it's the series that was abandoned. I can understand why people would abandon a Game of Thrones as a book and A Song of Ice and Fire as a series, because it's not finished and there's a good chance that it never will be. I read the first 3 books and I plan on reading the last 2 that have come out, which is A Feast of Crows and A Dance with Dragons. I also haven't read the prequel, but that, in my opinion, like spin-offs don't really count towards like the main series, so I'm not going to count them. But like I said, I do plan on finishing them, even if the book series never gets finished. I am a fan of the series. I did start reading it after the show. Like, I did watch the show first, up to like season 4, and then I started reading the books. The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I've heard such mixed things about Donna Tartt. I have not read The Secret History. I have not read Goldfinch, so I have not abandoned it. I can't sit here and say very much about Donna Tartt. Oh yeah, I haven't put my Christmas tree up yet. I really do want to read The Secret History. The Goldfinch is less on my priority list. And I guess I can see why people abandon it. I'm not sure how it compares to The Secret History, but maybe it's like people get on the hype for The Secret History, then they decide to read another one of her works and it doesn't live up. That's kind of what I imagine happens. The next one is Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. I have never read this book, but I've seen people reading it like in cafes, like out in public. I don't know much about it. I don't know Daniel Kahneman. If anybody has positive things to say about the book in the comments, then maybe I would be interested in it. But memoirs are something that I read for a pretty specific reason, and it's not just like, I'll just pick this up just for the hell of it. So I haven't read it. Pride and Prejudice surprised me because I couldn't put the book down. I thought it was so fascinating. It's like, I know it's not the original Enemies to Lovers, but it is Enemies to Lovers, and just the unfolding of like the arguments and then the final announcement of affection and love and the sisters' relationships with each other. I loved Pride and Prejudice. It's my favorite Jane Austen. I can see how if you transition from like contemporary romance or just contemporary fiction in general, that the language would be a little bit off-putting. It requires a little bit more focus for like our modern way that we talk. So I can see if that's a reason why, but if it's like the story itself is boring, that I can't relate to because I loved it. The next one is Outlander, which I can understand as a book series. It is a hell of a commitment. It really is. The books are, 800 pages long if you get the regular paperbacks. I have the mass market paperbacks, which means all of mine are over 1,000 pages long, and there's almost no margins. It's a pretty big commitment, and sometimes the physical aspect of reading it is not very fun, to be honest. But I love Outlander. I love Jamie and Claire. I love the side characters like Ian, the nephew, Yeech and Cho, the TV show version. In the book, the author makes him a total creep, and it feels a little bit stereotypical, like racism towards Asians. I don't know. Like the exoticism and the like making them look like freaks of nature and unattractive, like all the stereotypes against Asian men specifically. That was a little bit weird. I'm glad that they took that away in the show. But yeah, as a book series, I can see why people would abandon it because it is very slow paced. I just finished the 3rd book in the series last year. And I do plan on continuing in the series. I can see why people would abandon it. I have yet to, but again, it's a big commitment, and the show is just so much more. I guess just seeing the romance unfold on screen is just more rewarding than waiting hundreds of pages in each book. So I get it. I do. The next one is Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. I heard really good things about this book when it came out, but I've never read it, so I can't say I abandoned it. Next is All the Light We Cannot See. Again, it's just one of those hyped up books. I think people just read it and go, really? Why? I can't speak to that because I've never read it. So the next one is Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling. I remember when this book came out. I think it's just like you can't live up to the hype once you've written something that is like... I mean, the level of success of Harry Potter, I just can't imagine as an author. Like, it would make me never want to write again. And the fact that this book kind of flopped in comparison, obviously, I mean, how could it not? Anything would have flopped in comparison to Harry Potter. It could be another amazing book and it still would have flopped, just because what's the odds of having that level of success again? Not very high. I mean, I don't think so, at least. I've never read it, but I'm not going to get into the controversy with J.K. Rowling these days. I understand that people really love Harry Potter. Even I do. A few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I bought thrifted copies of the UK paperbacks. I do love Harry Potter. It really sucks. Like, the whole separate the artist from the art thing. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to be... That's not what we're here for. So the next one is 1984 by George Orwell. I've never read it. I have a copy of it upstairs. I would like to read it. I don't know why people abandon it. Maybe it's just too much. I'm not sure. Next one is Subtle Art of Not Giving a This just never interests me, honestly. The the channel that I got this idea from, Books with Emily Fox, she said that books like this seem just kind of like obvious advice, and I'm pretty sure that this book deserves like a take like that. I don't know. I don't want to be like disrespectful or rude of authors that do take the time to write things that get published and, you know, have success. Because it's almost like, it's like when you go to a modern art museum and you see like blocks of color and you think, I could do that, but you didn't, right? You could have, but you didn't. They did. So that's the difference here. It's like, yes, maybe this advice is obvious. Maybe it's not worth your time, but they wrote it. They published it. They've gotten success from it. So somebody's enjoying it. But it's also on a list like this, which means that people read it and they probably go, this is obvious, or this is BS. And they DNF it. So I honestly see both sides to books like this. I have never read it and I have no plan to. So there's that. The Night Circus is the next one. I think that I would probably enjoy it, but I know that a lot of people read it and it's not what they expect. And I don't know what to take from that until I've read it for myself. But I can see how if you expect something to be something else and it lets you down, that would be disappointing. I mean, I see that. The next one is A Court of Thorns and Roses, Sarah J. Maas. Obviously, this one has seen massive levels of success. I think any book that has a very high success rate is going to be also often DNF'd because it just comes with the territory. If more people are reading it, more people are going to DNF it. I think that's the case with this. And it's the same with the next one, which is A Song of Achilles. I think a book becomes so popular that everybody expects it to be good. And I've said this before, that I don't think every book is for every person. So when a book becomes very, very popular, there are always going to be people that are disappointed by it just because of the level of popularity. You know, the first few people that read it and feel like they're the ones discovering it, I think they will always have the most fun with it. But when something gets to a certain level of hype, it's just like, it almost can't it can't satisfy the reader at that point, because it's like when you show your best friend your favorite movie and you just sit there and stare at them while they watch it, waiting for them to like have the same level of enjoyment as you. It's just not going to happen. Hi, baby. Hold on, I'm going to pause for a second. All right. So on that note, I have not read A Court of Thorns and Roses, so I have not abandoned it. I think I would finish it if I did start it, and I think that I would probably complete the series. At this point, the thing that's making me not read the series is just the commitment to a series. Because I've started and not finished so many series that I just don't want to start with another one right now. Maybe once I finish like Game of Thrones or Outlander, maybe then I'll pick up Court of Thorns and Roses. But it's just like it'll be there if I ever want to read it, so there's no hurry for me. And A Song of Achilles, I did really enjoy that book. It actually got me out of a multi-year long reading slump. A few years ago, I hadn't read in a long time, and ever since I picked up A Song of Achilles, I've just been much more motivated to read. I even bought like a few Greek mythology books after I finished it, which I never got around to reading. And I wanted to read the Iliad and Odyssey also after I read it. So I really enjoyed it. I did cry. I thought the ending was heartbreaking. So yeah, I did not abandon it. The next one is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I think it's kind of in the same category. Like, it just is so popular that by default it will disappoint people. But I actually really enjoyed it. I liked Addie as a character. I liked reading about her struggles, her story. I liked the romance. I even liked the villain. I thought it was all very interesting and sad, and it just kept me interested the whole time. I was reading it at night while I was reading a scary book during the day, and I read it faster than I expected to. Usually when I read at night, I just read for a few minutes before I go to bed, but I found myself staying up and actually like the whole one more chapter, and I was losing out on sleep because I was actually really into the book. So, did not abandon it. Okay, so the next one is Wolf Hall, which honestly is the only book on this list that I've never even heard of. So maybe I'll look into it because it's on here, like a popular book that's also abandoned often. I don't know what it's about. The next one is Infinite Jest. I see copies of this all the time when I go to like a Barnes and Noble. They put it on display with like popular books. And it's kind of funny because it's one of those books that I hear other people in bookish content world talk about how it's almost like a book that was designed to not be finished. It's like at this point it's almost like infamous for being DNF'd because it's just so, I don't want to say pretentious, but like if you have finished Infinite Jest, it's because you forced yourself to. But I've also heard people say that it's the best book they've ever read, and it's like, is it really, or do you just feel like you achieved something that was so like intimidating that you've brainwashed yourself into liking it because you're like, I put all this effort into it, so obviously I loved it. But like, did you? Or did you just like torture yourself? And you have to be proud of that. I don't know. I think it's funny because I've done that myself. I've read books that were really long and really boring, and at the end of it I'm like, well, I think I liked it. So on that note, there is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Oh, by the way, I've not read Infinite Jest, and I'm pretty sure that if I started it, it would either take me a really long time to finish or I would DNF, so I can see why it's on this list. The next one is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. This is a book that I did find myself bored through a lot of it. I can't lie. But I did finish the book, and I think I have brainwashed myself into saying that I really liked it. I feel like I liked it. But when I look back on the experience, I feel like it really wasn't that enjoyable as a whole. There were moments when I was like, oh my god, this is actually good. And then I'd be like, oh, it's slowing down again. Or there were times that I would be just completely lost and I'd have to go back and start a chapter over. Because there are times when, obviously it's fantasy, but it feels like magical realism too. Because there's times when they just say egregious things that you have to just like accept as reality. And it's just like, oh yeah, that's totally normal. I think that there were some pretty high highs, but a lot of the book was just kind of dragging for how long it is. I'm glad that I read it because it feels good to be able to say that I, you know, persevered through a book like this. Yeah. And also I read it when I was in the like peak of postpartum depression. So, I don't know what that says. But like I said, I think I liked it. Okay, so that is it for the list that I found, and now I'm going to continue with the books from Emily's video. So the next one would be 50 Shades of Grey. This book came out when I was a senior in high school, and I remember I did read the book, and it was funny because there would be like teachers in the hall that were eyeing me for reading it, and in my head I'm like, well, you only have the ability to judge me because you know about this book, which means you've probably read the book too. It's a moment in time when the hype, I think it was the first time in my life that I ever jumped on the hype train for a book. I mean, obviously Harry Potter, I guess, but maybe it's because it like when I say hype, it wasn't just that movies were coming out based on books. It was also like I had started using Instagram also, so seeing things actually on the internet, on social media, because I was old enough. When the Harry Potter books were coming out, when I was reading them in the beginning, obviously I wasn't on social media. I mean, YouTube didn't exist until 2005, and I remember one of the first videos that I ever watched was like a thirst trap about the boys in Harry Potter in like 2006. So I guess Harry Potter was the first like hype train that I got on. but but as like on the brink of adulthood, I guess, because I was 17 going on 18 when the first 50 Shades book came out. I did read it, I did finish it, and I liked it because I was, a 17-year-old girl and I was thinking, like, oh my god, am I allowed to read books like this? But it was fun. I liked it at the time. You had to be there. Okay, so the next one is Anna Karenina. This book has been spoiled for me. I'm not going to spoil it for you if you've not read it. I still would like to read it. I like Russian literature. I've read a few short stories by Tolstoy, but I've never read any of his chunky works. But Anna Karenina is definitely, if I was to make a TBR today, it would be on the list for books I want to read in 2026. I know that I will at least read one Russian literature classic this year. I haven't read it, so I haven't abandoned it. But I can see why people do, because Russian literature is kind of difficult to follow if you don't really pay attention, because a lot of the names are similar. A lot of people have like proper names and nicknames, and you have to use both. So it's like sometimes in Russian literature, it's hard to know which character is being talked about unless you've been paying attention closely. And then it's also just inherently depressing. Russian literature is just almost always depressing. So I can see why people would DNF it. The next one is Eat, Pray, Love. I've never had an interest in reading this. I probably never will. I've never seen the movie. I don't really get the hype, but it's just not for me. It's one of those books that's not for me. So if I was to try to read it, I would probably abandon it. So the next one is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And it's a book that I'm like kind of intrigued by, but it's not on my list of priorities. So if I was to read it, I think I would finish it. But it's just never been a priority to me. So the next one is Lolita. I have been curious about reading Lolita just because it's so popular and I want to know how a book about the P word could get so popular. I don't know. I don't know if I'll read it. It's one of those. Emily Fox was saying that she'll never read this book because of what it's about, and I kind of relate to that. But I'm curious about how it is so popular. Clearly, people abandon it. I mean, it's disturbing. If I was to read it, I don't know if I'd finish it, honestly. The next one is The Handmaid's Tale, and it's not one that I've abandoned because I've never been curious enough to actually pick it up. I did have a copy of it for a while, but then I wasn't reading it, so I donated it to a little free library. I've also never seen the show. I do think the concept is really scary, like women being essentially just used for our bodies to grow children. Like that's terrifying. I've heard that the show is better than the book. The next one is Life of Pi, and I can see why people abandon this one, even I myself. I think it took me 4 tries to read the book. I DNF'd it 3 times. So I am part of the statistic at least 3 times in the past. I did eventually finish it, but I kind of had to force myself. It's not worth the hype that it got. I can see why people abandon it. The next one is Moby Dick. It's kind of funny because this is actually on the Game of Tomes list for 2026. It's the book club pick for January through April, and so I am planning on reading it this year. I haven't started it yet, but I did download it on my Kindle. Future me, did you finish the book? Oh, don't touch the camera, baby. So the next one is 1Q84 by Murakami. I do not understand. Emily Fox and I are on the same page here. I do not understand why people like Murakami. What is it about him that you like? Some people say that he's their favorite author. If Murakami's your favorite author, you've got some explaining to do. The way that Murakami writes his female characters is like we are nothing but our bodies. Honestly. Like, he did give the main character a skill that I won't mention because it's a spoiler. But the entire book, I really wish that I'd kept count. Almost every page, if not every other page, he mentions mostly women's anatomy, mostly the chest area, but also other parts, and men's anatomy as well, just less frequently. But like, I just couldn't believe it, and it was like not even always in a sexual way. He even sexualized minors. Like, it was just gross, honestly. I don't understand the hype behind the author or the book. I finished 1Q84. I'm just so off-put by Murakami, honestly. People talk about this book like it's such an accomplishment to have finished it. By the time I finished this book, I was like, thank God that's over. And I can say that I read a Murakami, but like, what was the cost? I've never cringed so much while reading a book. I can see why people abandon it, and I don't know what made me push through, because I don't feel like I got anything out of it. It didn't even make sense. By the end of the book, you're just like, what happened? Like, what? There was no satisfying resolution to the major conflict throughout the book. So the next one is Gone Girl. I've never read it. I really, really would like to. I've never seen the movie. Unfortunately, I have been spoiled. It took years for me to be spoiled for Gone Girl, but it happened. I did get spoiled. But I would still read it. Oh, the next one is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and I am a victim of Wuthering Heights. I tried to read it in high school, and I just realized that he's been babbling. I'm so used to talking to people on the phone over his babbling that I just realized, hopefully you can hear me. I tried to read it in high school, and I wasn't prepared for the 19th century language. I never made it far enough for the characters to be awful to each other, but I know that they are. And I'm assuming that's why people DNF'd, but for me it was just because I wasn't ready for the language. Those are the most popular books that are frequently abandoned / DNF'd. Did you abandon any of these books? Did you finish them? Never heard of them? Never started them? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys for being here. I will see you in the next one. Bye.